Press the button, my friend.
The Out of Bounds Show is live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge in the Bank Plus studio.
Check it out.
All right, breaking news. MSU pitching coach Scott Foxhall was let go by Chris Lemonis today. I think everybody knows that the pitching staff had not performed up to the level in which Mississippi State baseball is accustomed to the last 2 years post-national championship. Now, this doesn't happen in baseball. We see this in football all the time. Defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, position coaches get let go during the season. You got this massive 50-person staff. You promote from within, shuffle people around. Basketball, assistant coaches don't get fired unless in the offseason they have a bag of cash and they're trying to get it to somebody illegally. Baseball, you do not see this. I can't remember it, and I've been following SEC baseball since 1980-81 at 8 years old. So we welcome in All-American pitcher Jay Powell, well over a decade in Major League Baseball. Obviously, he pitched at Mississippi State, very close to the program. And Jay Powell joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Jay, were you surprised to hear that Coach Foxhall was let go today?
Yeah, I really was. First, Fox is a good man, and he is a great person. And anytime you know somebody personally, you don't want them to ever be put in this position. And honestly, this kind of late in the season, maybe a little bit. But all those guys, it's not like it was with Coach Polk and those guys. It's a business now, and it's a lot of money involved. And so I've been on the side of being in pro ball and getting finishing a career. It's just kind of the nature of the beast once you get into that business.
All right, walk me through what you've been able to see the last 2 years. People have debated this nonstop. Is it recruiting? Is it development? Is it both? As somebody who watches a lot of Mississippi State baseball and, like you said, played at the highest level and played well, what have you seen the last 2 years?
Honestly, I think it's three things. I think injuries obviously have hurt them, no question. But every school in that conference has injuries with pitchers. That's just part of it. The second part, I think recruiting, if you look on paper, the recruiting has been very good from a standpoint of being ranked and all that stuff. I think the thing at the end of the day that really kind of got him was the development. And I think obviously the performance of the pitchers. I've watched it for a couple of years, and Fox loves strikeouts, and that's his deal. And strikeouts are great because more guys you strike out. Hey, if they're striking out, they got no shot at getting on base, obviously. But at the same time, sometimes it lends itself to being a little kind of not quite as aggressive maybe as you need to around the strike zone, and you get behind the count and you walk too many guys. So I think that was, at the very end of the day is kind of what ended up, I think, kind of getting him.
Okay. So I follow you on Twitter. We talk to people in the industry, and there is this whole thing about just mowing people down or actually learning the art of pitching, which is what you had to do at Mississippi State and going up into the minors. I saw you tweet a few days ago, and I was thinking about Bob Costas was talking to Tom Seaver late in his career, and he was calling games. Costas was, and Seaver said, "Bob, I can still throw 95 plus, but I don't have to throw or need to throw 95 plus every inning. In other words, I can, there's other approaches. I can learn the art of, I know how to pitch." Tom, so where? Can we do that anymore, or because of travel ball and everything else, is it just throw the hell out of it and try to mow people down?
Look, I'm all for guys with big arms. I love velocity. Velocity gets you out of jams. Velocity gets you a mistake, and you've got to have an ability to strike guys out in certain situations, no question. That being said, take the analytical part. I love it. I think it's some great information on it. But I've always said you don't go so far that way. You don't go so far old school way. You stay down the middle, use everything you can to get these guys better. So to answer your question, you use both ingredients. But I can tell you this: if you're a starting pitcher and you want to pitch past the fourth inning, you better learn to pitch to contact. Just because it's not going to work if you go out there and strike out 15 guys. For the most part, you're going to run your pitch count up. It's great, and if you got a deep bullpen, it's great. But I just think there's a little bit of a happy medium you can get to, and still be effective, but yet be able to do two things. One, extend yourself in the game a little bit, and the next thing is to be able to kind of hopefully stay away from some of these injuries that have happened. Because look, man, if you know, as a sprinter, if you're going to go out there as a sprinter and you're going to sprint as hard as you can every time you go, eventually you're going to snap. If you do it over time, you do it too much. You know, and it's the same thing. Max effort, high intensity pitches over the course of a few innings and high pitch counts in those innings, it a lot of times leads to blowouts. And you know, there's nothing wrong with a 12-pitch inning and a strikeout and a fly ball and a ground out. I mean, I think 99% of pitchers in college would take it, but it's not. We don't put emphasis on that. We put emphasis on the strikeout.
Okay, who's doing it? Who have you watched this year that's trying to balance the ingredients and what you just walked us through?
I have no idea their stats. No clue, and I may be totally off with this. The team I watched early in the year that looked like to me they were doing two things. One, they were trying to pitch to contact, and two, they were pitching with their fastball and had command of their fastball in South Carolina. That was the team I saw early in the year, and they were fastball heavy, but they wasn't throwing that ball down the middle. You know, they were pitching to spots. They were pitching more so than just trying to get swing and misses in the strike zone. And that team to me impressed me early on, as far as what I've seen.
Now you had high velocity when you were playing. You threw hard, but did you do that did you rear back every single when you weren't throwing a changeup or a breaking ball?
Right.
Did you go all out, or did you kind of pick your spots? And I don't even know what you maxed out. I mean, if you could throw 95, did sometimes you throw 90, Jay?
No. What would the way I describe it was, if like I pitched, being a reliever is a little different, but I would pitch at about a 96% intensity rate. But I always had that, 2-2, 1-2, and if I need to throw a fastball by a guy, I always had that little bit extra gear I could get. And I always kind of had that. So if I was throwing 94, 95, 93, then, I had that gear to where I could hit 96. And you've got to learn that as a pitcher. If I tried to throw that dude as hard as I could every pitch, my command would not be very good. And secondly, I wouldn't last. I mean, I would break down more so than I did.
Jay Powell on the Out of Bounds show. What's realistic for, the season's pretty much shot. What is realistic for Lemonis to do? Because Lemonis and Gautreaux and Cheesebro don't specialize in pitching. So what's realistic over the next 3 weeks, Jay, with the staff?
I don't know, because, I don't think anybody really knows what their plans are. I don't know, to be honest with you. I think they're going to try to do, obviously, a lot of evaluation going forward. They turned that roster upside down last year when it comes to pitching. And some of the guys that they were getting in the portal that were, you look at their numbers and they were really good at other schools, just hadn't translated. So I think there's going to be a lot of evaluation and trying to figure out what's going to work as far as going forward. I do know that. I think I think they need to make the tournament. I think that's a big deal, this year, to try to save something out of it, at least making that tournament and finishing, as one of the top 12 in the league to at least get some postseason. Okay.
All right. Jay Powell on the Out of Bounds show. So with Arkansas, LSU, and A&M, I would think they're going to have to win at least 3 of 9.
Yes.
Minimum to get in. And so you feel like they need to get to the SEC tournament. And this is a preemptive strike by Lemonis, and you do the same. I would do the same. He's trying to save his job, right?
Well, I think he, probably at the end of the day, man, probably felt like he just, had to make a change. And look, I can promise you this: there's nobody in the world that that wants to have that conversation with one his assistant coach, but also a friend. I mean, you just don't want to happen.
Right.
But it just got to the point, and I'm speaking just from an outsider, but just where he said, "Hey, we need to make a change. Let's try something different." But I don't think it's a deal where if they have to make the tournament to say this or that. I just think from a program standpoint and a mindset and getting some positive energy about it, I think at least making it to the tournament would kind of give you something going forward where you feel like, hey, we kind of got a little momentum of what has been a bad season.
We'll leave it there. Jay Powell pitched at Mississippi State and in the major leagues for over a decade, joining us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Jay, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. All righty, we'll see.
Jay Powell, instant reaction. Breaking news, Scott Foxhall was let go by Chris Lemonis today. And as Jay said, they're close friends. That doesn't always happen, like especially football staffs, so many of them. They're around each other. But this group was a tight unit, Lemonis and Foxhall and Gautreaux and Cheesebro. Yeah, and like Blake said, the national championship ring and so on. But they hung out outside of the game. If you missed any of this, go to Apple Podcasts, search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds, or go to YouTube and search Out of Bounds Sports.